everyone. Welcome to the extended version. My very special guest on today's show over at BBTV is Sarah Reuter. And so I'm bringing Sarah back here on the channel for an exclusive. Sarah is the founder and CEO of Elevate Travel Company, and she has a incredible coaching business that is one that's going to uplift and transform you. It's really about turning pain into passion, and she's amazing at that. She's got all the tools. And if you didn't get a chance to listen to the live show, then go back and watch it. It's such good content. And we're going to just keep diving in to what it means to get into our body, what it means to redefine success. And what I want to start with, Sarah, is talk to me about, on the show we talked about yoga being a modality and meditation, breath work. Those are three kind of big ones in terms of practices that you use with the people that you're working with, as well as in your own life. What are some of the other tools that you found are really amazing for people as they are trying to de-stress, as they are trying to move through whatever's happening in life, as they're trying to work through traumas? Like, what are some of those other tools that you found are super effective and helpful?
So I've recently been practicing and will be teaching this in my Revive and Thrive program, but it's called the body feeling technique. And it's really, something that if you do have a meditation practice, it's really easy to incorporate this into either before or after your meditation. But it's really just rooted in the fact that, our body carries and stores so much wisdom. It's really our antenna of, even trauma and anxiety. We kind of put these negative um, feelings around these disorders or these experiences or illnesses, but really it's there to signal to us that something is alerting us, like there's a lesson there for us. So,
Yeah.
I hate to say, especially if someone's really, in severe panic attack mode or going through anxiety and you don't have the tools yet, to say that it's a gift is kind of like, whoa, hang on a minute. Like there's some knowledge that comes with that. But once you're through it, once you can really close the loop and really start to feel and talk to your body, there's wisdom there. There are answers for you that, not to say don't go to the doctor. There are really smart people and medical professionals and psychologists, but truly, and you can probably attest to this with your cancer journey, you carry the wisdom. We all carry the wisdom. And
Yeah.
the more we can tap into that, the more aligned we will be when we go to our doctor and they're making recommendations and we say things like, no, you know what, that doesn't feel right for me. I can't explain it, but I'm not doing this, or I'm going to find a different solution. And then we go back
Mm-hmm.
and we do research. And so the more you can tune into what sensations are happening in your body,
Yes.
because honestly, most people are, or a lot of people are just unaware. We're blazing through the day.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not a meditator, if you're not doing some of these breathwork modalities, it's full on constantly, and we just don't slow down to really tune in. And that is where the magic lies. It really does.
Yes, absolutely. I remember definitely tuning in when I got my breast cancer diagnosis. I was like, "Oh, I really got to sit with this for a little bit and figure out what this feels like for me," because I already in my body was feeling like if chemotherapy is on the table, that's going to be a no for me. And I already felt so strongly about that. And I wanted to make sure that I was making a decision that was good for me based on as much information as I could get. So that was, I feel like, brought about by asking lots of great questions, getting lots of opinions, not from just one doctor, but from multiple doctors, doctors on the holistic side, as well as from the traditional medical side. And
Yes.
with that, and knowing that I do have divine intelligence and wisdom in this body and soul of mine, it's tapping into that and saying, what's actually feeling good for me? Where can I make a decision not out of fear? Because so often that gets in the way, right? But how can I get grounded in a way that I am in as neutral as I can be in trying to make a really great decision for myself. And we're all different in how we process and make decisions, and how we might have a gut feeling or a heart feeling. For me, for sure, it was, I need time to sit with this and not feel rushed, not
Yeah.
feel rushed to a decision. And that's something that I practice throughout my life. And it doesn't matter what the thing is. I'm usually good at making pretty quick decisions. However, sometimes there's bigger decisions that I need to sit with. And I'm really comfortable with telling someone, especially like on sales calls and things like that, when people are like, oh, well, offer is only good today, or it's a limited time. I go, okay, well, if you need an answer now, then my answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're okay with me taking a few days, because that's what I feel like I need, then I can come back to you and give you a real answer, because I will have had time to sit with it and process it. And then we can have a better conversation. So
Yes.
it's always interesting to me to watch that transaction. People just get all excited, and they're in the moment, and they just, okay, shoot first, aim later. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. Like, just because something's presented a certain way doesn't mean you have to do it. And I have to credit my mom, because she really taught me that. My mom, in the country of Thailand, if any of you have ever been there, like, they tell you negotiate everything, because that's their way of life. Everything
Mm-hmm.
is a negotiation. Nothing has a price tag on it. It's all a negotiation. It's,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think what the value of this is? And can you meet the other person at that same value level? And then you both walk away happy.
I love
So I learned this because, my mom will walk into a regular grocery store. She'll walk into Albertsons, and she'll literally go, hey, I actually want a case of this soy sauce. So can you make me a deal? And
love
I think
it.
it's fantastic,
I
because I'm
do
like, who
too.
does that? Who walks into the grocery store and is like, hey, I'm actually going to buy more than the average person here, and I would like a discount? And she
Yes,
gets it almost every single time. And
I
I'm
love
floored
that.
by that. And I'm like, my mom does not, because she doesn't know any different.
Yeah.
And it's just like we were talking on the previous episode about how, what do you think is possible, and are your own perceptions of what's possible limiting what actually is possible? Because we all do it. We don't know what we
Oh,
don't know until we watch someone do it
100%.
differently, yes, or experience it differently. So how can we also just start to look at things in a different light, in a different way, so that we're not so limited by what we think our choices are? I have to tell you, there's so many times where I look at my life and I'm like, you know what, God, thank you, because everything that's transpired, everything I've been through, it's it's beautiful. It's still been a beautiful life, despite the ups and downs and the hardships and some of the like hard lessons and the big things. I mean, getting breast cancer was a big thing.
Of course.
And even through all of that, I'm like, man, I've had such an amazing life, and one that, if you would have asked my tiny little brain what I thought my life was going to look like, it was not this amazing. And it's really beautiful to be like, oh, but you know what? I had a lot of faith that I don't know exactly what it's going to look like or how it's going to pan out, but I believe it'll be great. And getting to be, here in it, and just in the gratitude of like what is really beautiful. And I
It
think it's such
really,
a great place to be able to come to and sit with and go, like, wow, so
it
grateful for so
really
much
is.
grace in what life can be, right?
Your mom is like my kind of soul sister in a way. I feel like there's a part of me that understands that cultural concept of like,
Yeah.
and when you think about, the business owner on the other side that is like, hey, I have an opportunity to sell a case. I don't usually package that, or that's not one of my products, but when it's
Yeah.
aligned and it's a good fit, that's when you're
Yeah.
like, yes, it's an easy yes. You feel it in your body,
That's
right?
right.
You move towards that or away. And like
Yeah.
again, back to this body feeling technique, the more
Mhm.
we can tune in with our body, the more just literally plugged into the divine we're going
Yeah.
to be, and it's such a beautiful process. Another tool that just came to mind was, I had mentioned on the podcast that the first module in my Revive and Thrive program is called Becoming the Conscious Truth Teller. And I give everyone some truth telling homework to do.
Ooh.
And I'd love to share it. on this right now.
Please.
Yeah,
I want to know what truth. I want to know about this truth. I've got my pencil out. I want to know what this truth telling homework is, because I'm here for it.
well, so you know how we've got the subconscious mind, right? We've got the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the subconscious records are kind of constantly playing, and a lot of times we're unaware of it. And that subconscious is really driving the ship a lot of times. It's really the compass. It's the navigation unit. And so um, this truth telling exercise, I read this in a book. It's called Maybe It's You by Lauren Handel Zander. It's a great book. Have you read this book?
I have not read that one, but I'm going to put it on the list now.
She's like, her tagline is cut the crap, face your fears, love your life. Like, she's a no BS. Like, if you want to make real change in your life, this is where you have to get real. So this truth telling exercise is in her book. And I did this while I was on a trip to Africa. I went on a 2-week journey to Africa in Kenya, and I was leading a little small group of it was all women.
Cool.
And I did this exercise during this journey, and it was three times a day. If you eat 3 meals a day, or just choose 3 times a day, sit down, get out your pen and paper, and just write down, brain dump what is going on. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking about? Just, without, don't try to structure it. It's literally just a complete brain dump. You do this 3 times a day for 2 weeks, and you're going to start to see a theme. And you're going to have clarity around something that your subconscious needs to look at a little bit, or your conscious mind needs to look at a little bit clearer, because your subconscious is running this record. It's running the show.
The script. Yes.
Yeah. And so, mine was, I'll just share what it was. Mine was around body image. I had no clue how self-critical I was about my body image until I did that exercise. I had no idea, that was running underneath. And so it just brings this level of awareness. It peels the layer back, pulls the lens back to say, like, what's really going on here at a deeper level. So it's a really incredible exercise to do. And so it will help, my participants really start to hone in on what's really going on underneath here. Even if they think like, I'm good, I'm cool, I don't really have anything going on, I'm good. I think it'll really start to shine a light on some of these subconscious beliefs or thoughts that are running the show here.
That are running the show. You are so right. It's so interesting. I'm definitely going to read this book, because that really resonated with me. I just came off of a retreat in July, and that at the retreat, one of the first exercises that I have the folks do is we do a brain dump, because brain dumping just allows you to get it all out, so that it's not dwelling. It's like the cobwebs of the brain is what I call it. And so just that exercise does allow us to get it all out, get it on paper, and see where are our thoughts taking us? What are all the lists we're making in our head? And what are all those things that we're talking about? And I think for so many of us, body image 100% is the number one that comes up. And it was interesting because I was talking to a friend about being in these Korean spas, because you walk around there naked. They're actually like, clothing is not optional. You're not supposed to wear any clothes, no bathing suit, no anything. And what helped me though is recognizing that every single time I go, I have to laugh, because I go, every body is just so different.
Yes.
We all really truly come in different shapes and sizes. Yes. And it's really not the image we see on the bill. Like I go every month, and I'm like, I still have yet to see a billboard body in any of these places. And I just laugh, and I'm like, we have such this unrealistic view sometimes. And it's just, what's fed to us. And so we start to acquire a taste for it, instead of just being like, look at all these beautiful women, and the fact that our bodies are all just different in their own right, in their own way. And it was really, it was just a nice coming home to myself, I think, also, of just going, no, like, this is fine. This is just fine. And the biggest aha I ever had around body image, in basically what you were saying, which is recognizing like, oh my gosh, this is really under the surface. Is I was sitting in a plant ceremony. I was in a ayahuasca ceremony, and it was my very first one. And I remember it was one of the very first kind of big things that came up for me. Is I was like, oh my gosh, I beat myself up about my own body image, and I have been doing that for many years. And I just came into this deep appreciation for my body, for
Mm,
all that it's been through, for all that it's
mm,
gotten me through, of
mm,
how just in the daily walk of life, how like I've got a great digestive system, I hardly ever get sick, like I've got a great immune system. And I'm just like, oh, all the things that this body has had to go through, like just the resilience of it has been so beautiful. And I just had so much gratitude. And it really shifted something for me after that first event, where I just was like, I am just going to speak love into my body all the time, no matter
mm.
what. No
Yes, no
matter what.
matter
I'm like,
what.
yes.
No
And it's
matter
just
what
that.
size, no
That's
matter what
right.
shape, right? It's
That's
like
right.
that's true self-love, to
Yeah.
be able to accept where we are in any given moment,
Yes.
and that
Yes.
comparison that we all so often do,
Yeah.
to really just become aware of that. And I so now this sounds crazy, but like I'll look in the mirror if because the truth is that these thoughts, once you become aware of them, you can now identify them. Now you have
Mm-hmm.
awareness, and so when they come up, you now have the tool. And so I go to the mirror where I find my reflection and I say, I love you, Sarah. I love you. I love you. And I look into my own eyes and I say it until I have tears, until I believe it, and
Mm.
it's such a beautiful process to come back home to yourself in that way.
Yes. 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 And yes. My favorite thing to do is to play myself romantic songs and sing them to myself. Oh, 100%. I'll get in the mirror and sing myself a love song all day long. All
That's
day
so
long.
great. I
I have
love
no
that.
problems with it.
I might have to do that too. I love to put on my Spotify playlist and put my earbuds in and just, yeah, play a romantic song to yourself.
All the
That's great.
time. People
I
laugh all the time. And it's so funny. I have a massage therapist that comes to my house, and of course, it's my choice on music. So I'm like, what do I feel like today? I feel like a little R&B. Let's
yeah,
go. It's
it's
like it's
fun.
always different, and I always have fun with it. And I just think it's a beautiful way. It's a beautiful way to be able to do what makes you feel great. Going and picking fresh flowers just from even around the garden or the neighborhood or the hikes. I'll do it because it's like I can buy myself flowers. Like
Yeah.
I laugh when Miley Cyrus came out with that song. I was like, I can buy myself flowers. I was like, yes, I can. And I was like, I don't even buy them. I just walk outside and pick them and make myself
Yeah.
whatever feels good for me. And I'm like, oh, that was for me. And I
Yeah.
didn't need it to be anything else. It was
No.
like, just do what you love, do what fuels you and
Yes.
fills you. And being able to like I said, sit in that gratitude for my body and realizing, wow, I really had some hangups around this that
Mhm.
are hanging out in the background. So I
Yeah.
love that. Brain dump for 3 times a day, though. That's
3 times.
spectacular. I'm definitely gonna go do that practice. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That I would
And
love to see what comes out of that.
yeah, and pen to paper, right? That
Yeah.
cathartic journaling, that's another
Mm,
tool. I
yeah.
mean, especially if you haven't written in a while. Like I just was at an event and the speaker started writing the flip chart and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't even write anymore." While she was like saying it out loud. She was
Yeah.
talking about how bad, my handwriting is horrible, and it's because we're typing all the time,
Yeah.
and so I don't know, it's just cathartic for me to journal, and that's one of my tools that I use
Yeah.
is journal every day, write it down, and just been very healing to do that.
Yes, yeah, I find journaling to be super healing and such a great self-regulation tool for myself. I've been journaling since I was probably like 8 years old.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because I remember I had this tiny little diary that actually had a little lock on it, and you had to put the key in it, even though you could 100% hack it with like a clothespin, like
Yeah,
a little pin, but like it
sure.
was so cute. And it was like my diary, and I'd write in it, and talk about my day. Well, what kind of day does
I
an
know
8-year-old
your
have,
deep
right?
dark
It's like,
secrets. Your
I
your
got a new
8-year-old
Cabbage Patch
secrets.
doll today. Yeah, yeah. Like there's only so many things. And at the same time, like what a beautiful gift it was to learn to write. And I remember my grandmother was a pen pal for me. She lived in
Mhm.
Florida when my parents got divorced and we had moved to Texas, and just pen paling with my grandmother as well. I felt like that there was such a great connection where we stayed so connected. And there's something
Yeah.
about writing each other letters and addressing
Yes.
stuff back and forth. And then even in school, we didn't have phones when I was in school. So it was letters. We wrote each
Yeah.
other notes and passed them all around and hoped that the teacher didn't catch us and read it out loud during the class. Like
Yeah.
those were the days. And
Yes.
even now I realize as an adult, one of the things that I really, really love, and I've been back in the dating world again. And one of the things I appreciate when someone else shows up is I appreciate how well written in their communication they are to me, because it's a nostalgia for me in a way. I really appreciate well written and well thought out
Mhm.
conversational in that kind of non-verbal, but written on a text
Yes.
message or in an app or on an email, like that. I love, because there's still so much emotion that can happen in that. And now we have emojis to add to them.
Yeah.
So, you can give it personality. And I like it because it's something you can kind of hold on to and also look back on.
Mhm.
And I think there's something really beautiful about that. And it's fun to like watch the process unfold and watch how you acknowledge each other. And it also gives you, I think, deep insight into how someone communicates on a regular basis. And the
Absolutely.
communication is such a big one for me. And so when I find someone that's a good match in that sense, I'm always like, ooh, this will be fun. It
Yeah.
just feels good and it feels better. And you just have sort of an automatic knowing of like, ooh, I don't think communication is going to be a problem for us.
Yes.
And that feels always, really good and really aligned. So I,
Yes.
I love that. Yeah, I think writing is cathartic. You're totally right. It's
Mhm.
so healing in so many beautiful ways. I think
Mhm.
as a young girl, I was probably my own counselor in a way by just getting the thoughts and feelings out on paper,
Oh,
because it's like, oh, I got to share them, and to
yes.
see myself and to hear myself was like, that was the way.
Yes.
And that felt good.
It
Yeah. Yeah.
does.
I love
What
that.
is it Brene Brown that says write the shitty first draft, especially SFD or something like that. If you're
Yeah.
really struggling with like, a challenge or a conflict, and it's just like get it out, write it out, because then you can
Yes.
at least maybe not hurt the other person you need to have the
Yes.
conversation with, and you can kind of revise it, right? So
Yes, yes, you can observe it. Yeah, one of the practices that we do during my retreat is actually there is a letter process. And for people who, especially couples who are breaking up, and having them write that letter to each other, the thank you letter, the gratitude letter,
mhm, mhm,
that part of it it's super healing. And if they don't have the words where they're speaking the words, then it allows them to actually write it out and then read it, or let the other person read it. And then this way they've gathered their thoughts. They've
mhm,
had time to erase and go back and go, oh, I didn't say that in a way that was as loving as I wanted it to be. Or, ooh, I've got extra stuff I want to add here. It
mhm,
gives that person also, something to look at and reflect on. In my own last long-term relationship, when we ended really consciously, and
mhm.
part of that practice was, I remember I hand wrote out on my Remarkable, which is a little electronic pad, and I know
Yeah,
iPads will do that these days too, but I love my Remarkable because it feels like I'm writing on a pen and paper, even though it's storing it for me in a way that I don't have to lug around 50
yeah,
pounds of notebooks.
love it.
And that practice for us was really, really healing, because I got to express the gratitude I have for everything, for the completion that was happening in
Mm,
our lives and our relationship. And also express that, hey, my desire is that we would also still be family, just in a different way. And it's so beautiful because I feel like we got that, like we have a
mhm,
really great relationship. And I still get to see in the dogs, and like it's still a whole really, really healthy way that I go, this is a paradigm shift that I would wish for everyone.
yes.
And one that's not steeped in a lot of like anger and distrust and all those things. It's like, no, this is steeped in, it's remembering that there was love here, and there still is love here.
Yeah.
It's just transmuting and it's shifting and it's changing in how that love is defined between two people. And so that part of it was so super healing, and a lot of that came through just the writing piece of it. And it was nice to see that and go, this is a framework that other people can use to heal
Yeah.
their relationships, to heal for themselves. Because I will say this, for those of you who are going through any relationship challenges, or even thinking about what it might look like to have a more conscious uncoupling relationship versus one that's super adversarial and needing to plot kids against each other and all that stuff. Like, you don't have to do that. It doesn't have to be ugly. And what I will say is that if anything, it will be more tender, because when you're angry with someone or when you're hateful, it's easy to disassociate from them and go, well, they're just a bad human, and so I don't want them in my life anymore. It's much harder to acknowledge that we're all people who sometimes have bad behavior and aren't kind to each other. And we can also make some choices for forgiveness. And it doesn't mean that they have to be in our life for the rest of our life, but there can be an option for some forgiveness and some grace, and just acknowledging like there was so much love here, or there's children we've made, or there's beautiful place memories that we have together, and that those can just be complete. And then both of you can move on to your newest chapter, and not having to do it with leaving a lot of hate on the table. So that's my wisdom for you on the relationship front. And speaking of that, Sarah, if you had any relationship, what's the best relationship advice you've ever gotten?
Mm, goodness. You know, I'm going to just say what you just said about having a conscious ending. I just, how much better would the world be if we were to end relationships consciously like that? Not just with intimate partners and romantic partners, but with business
With
partners,
everyone.
with
Yeah.
family members, with colleagues. I mean, just think about that. And so a lot of us haven't had that experience. My last romantic partnership was the first time I got to experience this. And
Mm,
I think it was a coaching program I took. I don't know if you've heard of Mark Groves. He's Canadian, found him on Instagram. He had this relationship 101 course, but he really does this deep dive in. Same thing that this book I was referencing earlier about, you got to look inside to see what you're bringing into
mm,
the relationship and own your things, own your stuff,
right.
because, so often we want to point the finger, and
That's
really we
right.
have to just tune in to what we're choosing. Sometimes, we're not
That's
even
right.
acknowledging that we're choosing maybe a misaligned relationship. And that becomes a pattern for a lot of people. But
Right.
my last long-term relationship was the healthiest relationship I've ever experienced. And it
Mm,
was because I did the work. It was
mm-hmm.
because it wasn't, it was because I had raised my frequency and my consciousness, and I've been doing the inner work. Um, and that continues to evolve. You're going to start to align with people that are doing the work as well. And so I'm going to, Mary D, say that your advice and what you're doing in your retreat, what you just said about writing this letter to your partner, I mean, how beautiful of advice is that, is to practice that, to try that. If you're going through a current challenge, it's hard maybe when you're, especially if it's, you're experiencing sadness and grief and pain. I mean, but to be able to feel that, and again, that's where these modalities come in. Feel the pain, feel the grief, feel all of these things that your
That's
body
right.
is crying out for you to feel. Allow it,
Yeah.
and then you decide how long you want to suffer.
Right.
We get
That's
to
right.
decide how long we want to suffer, how long we want to stay
That's
in the
right.
victim story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until we need to pop out of this on the other side and become the victor, become the champion, the hero, the heroine of our own stories and traumas and pain. And
Yeah.
to be able to write those letters, a love letter, to the person you're ending this chapter with.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. It's super healing. And I'll tell you what another step in that's super powerful is being able to write the love letter to yourself, for
yes.
being able to go and make those decisions, because sometimes it's easier to kind of make a blind eye
Mm-hmm.
and compromise in a really big way on
Yeah.
something that you've just been letting slide for the longest time.
Yeah.
You know, the infractions that happened in my marriage were not giant, you know,
Mm-hmm.
giant episodes. They were over time. And then one day you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a whole pile of rocks over there I didn't even know I was collecting. You know, so I had to own my part of it too, right? And so that's such a big piece of it. And then also being able to reflect back to yourself and just say, hey, this is hard, because there might be a lot of love still for this person, and there might be a lot of love and resolve. I don't know about you, but I'm a problem solver. Like, I can solve
Yeah.
any problem. So not being able to solve my problem was really deflating. And at the same time, all of the reflection at the end of the day helped me come to a really centered place. It's that grounded, place of being able to make good decisions, of like, no, there's still a lot of love here, and I can still, this person can still be family for me, and we can all still have conversations and be kind to each other and see each other once in a while. And I am positive that not being married is the that's the right choice. That this
Absolutely.
person is not my partner anymore, and that's the right choice. And so it's all of the feelings. It can be both. And even earlier you were talking about how, there's sometimes a shadow side. There or not sometimes, there is a shadow side. We all have it.
Mhm.
And can we tap into that sometimes too? Because that shadow side helps us get a lot of reflection. It really helps us see what's showing up for us. What's festering down there. And maybe we do need to look at our levels of compassion. Maybe we do need to look at where we messed up. And it's so easy to point the blame, because again, that allows us to disassociate and say, oh, well, they're a bad human, they're this and that. But what happens when we point at ourselves and remember that, like, it takes two to tango, and
Yeah.
it's never usually one person. Like,
Yeah.
everyone's got something that they brought to the table, and how does that show up?
Yes. I will say it makes me think about, if anyone is in an abusive relationship,
Mm,
there are situations where you do have to protect yourself. You have to draw the
absolutely.
line and,
Yeah.
maybe not point the finger so much at yourself from a safety standpoint. Like, you have
Mm-hmm.
to be safe first, then you can do some inner reflection. Because I've been down that path as well. I've been there,
Mm,
with my first love was toxic love,
mm,
and so I share that very openly with some speaking keynotes and in this Revive and Thrive program, and it's where I really developed some of the coping mechanisms that are exacerbated in the events industry. Not to point the finger at the events industry, but the stress that comes up and all of these things that start to come in at me. It's I've had to really learn to discern,
mm-hmm.
am I having a toxic relationship with my job, or am I having a healthy relationship with my job? Am I getting
Mm-hmm.
the dopamine hit from being the savior, the helper, the fixer,
Right.
or am I getting my dopamine hit from pouring my cup, serving,
Mm-hmm.
taking care of myself, taking care of my clients from an authentic, whole space? And that's been a
Yes.
journey.
Yes.
It's really been a journey. And I know I'm not alone. I know there are so many other
Yeah.
people that, whether you're in the planning event, travel and event planning world, or just whatever you're doing, we have to really find this balance. I hate to use that word, but we have to really find the discernment between these toxic patterns, and are these coping mechanisms, or are these serving my highest good and serving the greatest good for all. I mean, that's really,
Totally, totally. Yes. And I'm definitely in agreement with you on those abusive relationships. And that can be physically or emotionally.
yes,
People often think of it as physical abuse, but oftentimes there's emotional abuse. And even in that scenario, when I say, hey, where can we also own where we're at? Oftentimes, if we're allowing it,
yeah,
that's part of owning
it is,
where we're at in those situations. Are we also allowing it? Are we making excuses for ourselves to stay? Are
yes,
we are we so remembering the love, that we're not also seeing that there's a whole other really unhealthy side here. And I've seen that too, where relationships are so passionate. I remember watching this one couple, they used to, I mean, their fights were very public and they were like knock down, drag out. And it was so strange to me because I would see them twice a year at these conferences that we had. And I thought, oh, it's beautiful. I love that, they travel with their family. But man, when these two would fight, it was like, wow, they are
Whoa.
vicious. They are vicious. But they also were so passionately in love. And it was just weird to like see them like kissing and like loving on each other. And then the next minute they would just be like, "Rah!" And I thought,
Wow.
wow, there's such a, just so much passion there that unfortunately it filters itself differently depending
Mhm.
on the context of whether things are going well or whether things are not. And eventually, they unfortunately didn't make it, but it was really wild to watch it and also just understand like, oh, there is something about not being able to let go or even evaluate the fact that like there's a toxicity here. There's
Yes.
something really unhealthy, and maybe both could receive the right tools to learn where to channel some of that and actually have conversations instead of these knockdown public dragouts.
Mhm.
Then I feel like, okay, there could have been some resolve there, but it was just almost too passionate in a
Yeah.
way that was like
Mhm.
really unhealthy.
Mhm.
And that's where I just tilt my head a little bit and go, oh wow, like we are all just designed so differently. And
Yes,
whatever traumas we don't work out, we for sure do bring them into our relationships.
we do.
And there's just no avoiding them. I'm literally reading a book right now that's talking about just the how she went through an abuse her cycle with her father and watching her mother, and then she ended up getting in a really similar
Mhm.
situation, the whole time saying, I'm not like my mother. I'm not like my mother, until, the third time it happened. And she was like, I'm just like my mother. And it was just such a like, oh
Yeah.
man, like just what's processed, what are we used to, and are we used to something that's not healthy? Can we recognize what that might look like? And
Yes.
that's such a big piece of it, is just being able to put a pin in it and go, oh, I see it. It's a spade. And I'm going to call a spade
Oh,
a
yes.
spade.
Yes.
Yeah. Cause it's
My
easy to mask it, oh,
It
that spade
is.
looks like a sheep. It's like, yeah,
Yes.
well, but can you look under and see the spade that's dressed like a sheep, but it's really a spade? So like
Right.
those pieces, and you're so right. Just the awareness is literally the very first step. So
Yeah.
we can go, oh, I see the red flag.
Yeah.
I see it right now.
Yeah.
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 Super
My
good. Super
my
good.
nervous
Oh,
system definitely would identify chaos to my nervous system equaled love.
ooh.
To really hone in and magnify that in relationships, in my job, and everywhere
Yeah.
it's showing up, that, and I
Yeah.
had this codependency, this toxic relationship with chaos,
Mm.
whether it be my job or the relationships I found myself in.
Yes.
Just to have awareness of that and be able to say like, whoa, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it is me. And how can I shift this? How can I do better?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I love you speaking to that because I think that resonates with a lot of people. I think there's lots of people that can definitely say, oof, they can raise their hand and go, yeah, that's me too. Things feel chaotic all the time. I can't seem to get organized. I can't seem to be on time. I can't seem, like, all the thoughts, right? All
Yeah.
the shotgun of thoughts are just going off and off and off.
Yes.
I remember being in, it was my last semi-serious relationship, and everything just seemed great on paper.
Mhm.
But I remember sitting with this and saying, he has a lot of chaos in his life,
Mm.
actually. And I'm watching it and I'm like, this is definitely some work that's still like available here to be done. And I also think oftentimes people go, oh, well, I have to be fully healed of all my things before I can have a relationship. And it's like, know. I don't know if
Mm.
that's completely true. I think that
Mhm.
relationships are a really beautiful way to confront a lot of those things and get the healing. And there has to be a choice made here too, right? Like both
Right.
parties have to agree that like we understand what's happening, and that's just the ability to also maybe lovingly go, "Hey partner, you're being really chaotic right now." And like can we take a breather? Can we take a break? Can we reset so that you're not in this like spinning? You're not spinning right now. And that's a choice. And I remember in that moment also saying, some more work could happen here. And I am at a place in my life where I've got a lot of peace, and all of that chaos, I don't want to choose it.
Mm.
So
Yeah, thank
that's okay
goodness.
too.
Yeah, you were
Yeah.
able, think about the transformation that happened from you were talking about the rocks stacking up, like the little things that stack up that we self-abandon.
Yes.
We make these
Mm,
we've got these all these things, or this pro list over here is great, and there's just these few little things. I did that in my
right.
last relationship, and the truth after the mask came off was that we were just not aligned, like our lifestyle choices. So many
Yeah.
values lined up, but it was more lifestyle things, the way
Yeah.
we traveled, the types of
Yes.
vacations we wanted to take. And now one of my like deal breakers or non-negotiables is like, if it doesn't feel easy when we're traveling together, it's not going to work for me.
Yes.
But to
Yes.
your point with that peace and then the chaos, it's like the more we can know ourselves, the more we can get okay with, not saying like, oh, I'm picky and I have to have this and this, but more of like, this is what my soul, my heart desires. This is what puts me at ease. This is what
That's
makes me feel
right.
safe. This is what makes me feel sexy. The more we can embody that and live
Yeah.
that and be authentic in that, the more we're going to be able to have those conversations with people and say, you know what, this just doesn't align. Or hopefully it's going to be to the point where it's like, yes, we are vibing together.
Yes.
Let's go. Let's
Yes.
have some fun.
Yeah, nothing like a road trip or a vacation to really help you know how compatible you are with someone.
Oh, and I was like, let me give it another try. Let's try it again. I think I did it 3 times. And I was like, okay, Sarah, that's enough. That, third strike,
Oh,
you're out. But no, lovely,
yeah.
lovely, lovely man. Lovely,
Yeah.
lovely human being.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just didn't align with how we wanted to travel. Yeah, so
Yep.
it's sometimes it's not going to work, and we can't force it, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay. Like
Yeah,
I'm enjoying the journey,
yeah,
not worried about the destination. Let's
that's
enjoy the
right.
journey.
The journey is everything,
It
right?
is. It is. It absolutely is. Sarah, you've been so fabulous. Thank you for coming on, giving us some more of your wisdom and sharing that with us today. Folks, if you want to get in touch with Sarah, all of her information, all of her contact, uh, social media, all that good stuff is down in the comment section. It's also in the show notes. So please get in touch with her. She's got courses, she's got retreats, and she's doing some really great work in the world. And we're all we're healing is available for you. Just know that healing is available. It's available for all of us, and it comes in many different shapes and forms. But the first step is just recognizing that that's what you want to do, and finding those modalities that feel good for you and that you feel attracted to, and those people that can resonate with you. And so check things out, and check out all of Sarah's goodies for you. And with that, thank you again, Sarah. Appreciate you so much. We're closing the show today, and there'll be more content for you all here on the channel. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.